Hello and welcome back to the final episode of Let's Play Dual Hearts with commentary. I will be uploading the ending to the game separately from this particular episode without commentary, as frankly it's a 26-minute long cutscene and there really isn't a lot more to say that I haven't already said during the game itself. Of course we have a little dialogue from Act 2 that confirms what we already knew, that he was the original Sage, which is why he's the only one who seems to know what's going on around here besides Bumble and the Queen. Speaking of which, as if we didn't get enough of fighting her during Val's dream and again during Sarti's dream, now we've got one more round left to go with the Queen, so to speak, the final round. And frankly, although she seems to have a lot of bluster and claims that she's not particularly easily defeated, she's in fact the easiest boss in the game, as we'll see quite shortly. She must have a masochism fetish or something, because she just lets us wail on her like crazy every time we run into her. Ha ha ha, man. That's my impression of her voice. So this is what I was kind of referring to. After a certain point, these cutscenes become so stilted that I don't really have anything to say. I don't know how I'm going to keep commentary up during the ending. So, here we go. First things first, the Queen. There's no catch to this fight whatsoever, unlike the previous ones, rounds against her. We can basically just hit her right off the bat. There we go, watch this. She has some kind of attack, but I've never actually seen it. You can just wail on her until she backs away and then keep sort of approaching her and then she'll just die. It's ridiculous. I don't even know why they bothered putting this round in here. I don't even know what her attacks are. And then the game ended. No, wait. But wait, there's more. That was not the final boss. Shocking, I know. She is all talk. Got one thing in mind, and of course, he's surprised to find out that she's ready to go another round, or something. Of course now, the other shoe drops, finally. Remember that, supposedly, the Queen had the capability of fading Bumble away from existence at any point. And of course that whole red pendant thing is only finally sort of starting to register with Stompy that maybe something's wrong. There he goes, yep. So we got a little drama to deal with before we actually get to take care of the final boss for good. In case it wasn't clear what happened right there, he stole our 9 holy instruments. And probably our dream aura or something, or whatever allows us to make contact with dream beasts or something, because in this ensuing little sequence we have no capacity of fighting back whatsoever, and in fact we're weakened considerably from our usual dream state. I'll waste whatever breath I want. Yeah, he's pretty bug-eyed. He's actually pretty freaked out as Stompy goes, considering his usual bravado and attitude, I suppose. Alright, now we're back to being smug. Good old Stompy. Yeah, I guess that only one I can trust thing sort of goes back to the general theme of the game, that, you know, Stompy's supposed to be learning to open his heart up to other people. Anyway, this is your typical controllable helplessness sequence in most video games. We have no capacity to fight back, and the only thing we can do is run away from the Queen's attacks until inevitably something happens and the fight continues. There's no real objective here. I guess this is the only chance we'll actually get to see her attacks, considering I didn't see any of them during the actual fight where we were allowed to fight back. And she's got voice acting, which is kind of nice. But it's pretty much the same 2 lines. You think you can escape and try this, and she's got kind of a, there we go. She's got kind of an Eastern European accent or something. I guess they're pretty much the same attacks she used when she was in her flying phase during the original fight, the green gas and the green laser. I'm just mentioning it because I'm not sure if she has anything different during the first phase of the fight, when we actually have the ability to damage her, because it never really comes up. There might be a trigger. You might actually have to get down below a certain life threshold to get the next part. There we go. That's half our health down, I believe. I believe her attacks do 2 damage by default, and her lowest possible HP is 4, so there's no way to get your HP so low that she kills you instantly and you can't proceed to the next phase of the fight. It's not like Super Metroid where you can die during the cutscene fighting Mother Brain. Okay, there we go. I mean, we all knew that was going to happen. It would be an awfully weird subversion of the central themes of the game if Bumble just let him die. I mean, his part of the story is that he was typically a coward and a bumbling idiot, and he's grown to be shockingly competent and generally a willing successor to his predecessor, whatever the name of the Bumble was that traveled with McTuve when he sealed the nightmare away in the first place. Hooray for friendship! Yeah, look at that. We even get a little sign for him filling our health meter. The same sound that we get when we use the L2 button in regular gameplay. Oh, he's got such a sad expression on his face. That's so cute. Okay, now he's angry. Well, he doesn't care. She will kill him eventually. It's unclear why she doesn't just do it now. But somehow we got our 9 holy instruments back, and some of them will actually be useful during this fight. As you can imagine, this final boss fight takes the shape of your typical Zelda-esque fight, where you have a bunch of items that you've used, conquer various puzzles along the way, many of which will come into use during the final boss fight itself. Of course, this should be a substantial upgrade from his previous forms. Remember, he first fought us as a teddy bear and then as a fairy queen. So hopefully this third form will be a little bit more intimidating. That's the same, glowing red eyeballs that we saw when he broke out of his little gate in the first place. Maybe it's just me, but his little form kind of reminds me of AV Unit 1 from Evangelion, but just because of the general shape, there we go, there's his head, this sort of, sharp jaw, big jawline, huge teeth, and those big, bright red wings. He's actually really impressive compared to some of the previous boss fights. Of course, since he's so huge, he telegraphs most of his attacks, just as much as anything else in this game. So it's not too difficult to avoid them. Plus we have an arsenal of broken items to combat him with. And, of course, like most bosses in this game, his attack pattern is fairly repetitive. So I'm going to equip the sword here, but it turns out it's not really useful at all in this particular phase. There's basically 3 weapons we're going to use most of the way. One of them is the arbalest. I guess we could use the sword to slash the grass. Okay, that's one of his attacks. He plunges his arm into the ground, but of course it's really easy to see. The general flow of the fight is we're going to arbalest his face. Nice, easy target. And then Snake Fang, his soul or whatever it is, his red eyeball spirit. I keep switching back and forth here because I kind of assume for some reason at some point you can actually use the sword to damage the soul, but that's not really the case at all. It takes about 4 charge attacks, there we go, to break the shield around his head, and then 1 good shot to stun him. It takes about 4 or 5 shots to end this phase of the fight. This being, if we count the queen, this is the second phase. Of course, the queen barely counts at all. Okay, around here I finally realized I should just use the Snake Fang and the Arbalest together. There we go. See, it's a ridiculously easy attack to dodge. There's basically only one legitimately difficult part of this fight, and at this point, having 100% completion, there really isn't any difficult parts. But there's one part that at least attempts to be difficult, I suppose. Okay, there's a second attack. If we get too close, so there's a reason why I have to use the Arbalest. He'll hit us with his tail. Keep an eye on my tummy points. Notice I've only got down to 45. This is the first time I've actually had to refill my health. And Bumble just picks up a couple right there from some grass we slashed. This is his third attack. He releases 2 little sprites from his eyes. They actually track a lot more than it looks like. Notice that we took a half point of damage right there. That was actually from one of the sprites looping around behind us and getting us. There's a particular distance you have to be sort of far away from him and then oh, come on, lock on, come on. What the heck? I hate this. The game has gone pretty long without seriously glitching out in this. There were things not working the way they're supposed to, but it really frustrates me that here during this fight, the Snake Fang sort of spazzes out. But it's fine, because, I mean, again, the fight's not that hard. Notice that he doesn't move at all once we break his head shield before we actually hit him again. For quite a long time. Anyway, now that we've hit him 4 times, we can proceed to the third phase of the fight, and the second phase of the overall nightmare battle. This should be extremely familiar, because it's basically the same thing we fought when we fought the teddy bear version, the Dark Mist itself. The actual fight is slightly different in its construction. Again, we still have to Snake Fang him over to us. and we can bash him with the hammer this time as opposed to using the arbalest. For some reason I'm using Gen's hammer. I guess I pretended like I could actually win this fight easily without using the Esamon hammer, but realistically I should just use that the whole time. We'll get his life bar down pretty easily, especially now that we have the level 4 hammer. It does a ridiculous amount of damage to him, just like everything else in this game. I don't believe there's any significant difference in the damage that two different hammers do. Once we get his life bar down, he splits up into these 6 gems, which we can smash using the charge attack of the hammer. Only had time for 2, but fortunately, his life bar goes down proportionate to the number of gems you manage to smash, so the farther along you get, the easier it is before he splits apart again. Check it out, Dream Candy. But notice that even just from sort of smashing the little grass patches around here, I've already refilled Bubbles' tummy from the little bit that we had to use from the first fight from the first phase of the fight, so to speak. Okay, I believe there's 1 or 2... Oh no, just 1 left. We're almost there. Thankfully, we were able to get 2 at once here. Sometimes that happens. It definitely makes this fight quite a bit easier when it does. Right, and there we go. That is not a cut. That's actually how this phase of the fight ends. I like the starry background. It's really cool. I love when final boss fights have psychedelic backdrops. Okay, there we go. He's got a new attack. That laser only does like 1 hit point. Just pretty small by his standards. There we go. He's frozen again. We can take our time. Snake Fang again. Come on, please, please, please. Where's it going? Where's it going? Thank you. Okay, just in time there. I believe this one takes 5 hits, where the previous phase, similar to this one, took 4. He's a little faster here, and sometimes he even uses his attacks in tandem. I believe at some point a little bit earlier he used the tail swipe while he was also using the giant laser, but it was a bit hard to see, and I don't believe we can get hit by both at once. Here we go. Again, I'm showing this fight in its entirety. I can probably skip around like I often do during some of the other boss fights that have a lot of sort of repetitions of the same pattern. But again, since it is the final boss fight, I feel like maybe we should show the whole thing in its entirety. It's about 12 minutes long altogether. Notice that during that previous sprite attack, I did get the distance correctly. If you move pretty far back and then sort of move forward, they'll just fade out of existence before they actually hit you. But again, there's no real impetus to avoid them since they only do half a hit point of damage. I guess overall, being so powerful at this point is maybe a little bit sloppy, but we managed to execute the boss in a reasonable time frame, so I'm not too worried about how it looks. There we go. That should be 5, and we should be drawn in for the 5th phase of the fight, and by far the most difficult. You'll see why as soon as we get inside. Remember that the lightning attack of this boss did about 1.5 health points of damage, and now we've got 2. He sends a wave of lightning as his only primary attack, which you can easily jump over, and of course, hitting him with a Snake Fang stuns him for a little bit, allowing us to get a few free shots in them with the hammer. But now that there's 2 of them, it's actually very difficult to both hit him at a reasonable pace while dodging the lightning attack from the other. Of course, naturally, we'll want to focus on one of them first. Basically, our saving grace here in this half of the fight, one is that it's actually with the hammer quite easy to hit both of them if they happen to both be hovering around you, because the arc of the hammer strike is so wide. Secondly, as you're about to see once I finally finish off this one that I've been working on the whole time, is that each individual Dark Mist only has 3 crystals. Meaning it's actually quite simple, once you get one down, to get his health all the way down, and when you hit one of the crystals, he actually has much less health than the first one did after you only killed, a single crystal. So the fight does get a little bit easier as you go on, especially if we manage to kill one of them first, as I'm about to here. Obviously the first of the 2 Dark Mists, the one that we already got 1 gem out of, is pretty close to death right now, and thankfully the 2 crystals spawn right next to each other, so even though I missed my first smash, it's finally been executed. Now we go back to normal. This part of the fight was murder on me the first time I beat this game, because I did not have the Sage's Armlet, which doubled our defense, so every one of his strikes did 2 to 3 HP of damage. I had much less HP, and I didn't have the Esamon Hammer, which as you can see has kept our HP at full just from Esamons flying all over the place. Hope we didn't quite get there. In fact, I believe at some point in the middle there I locked onto a white Esamon thinking it was one of the crystals incorrectly. Oh well, the rest of the fight is basically academic from here. There is one more fight against the body, and it's actually pretty cool. So, of course, I'm looking forward to showing it to you. But first things first, we took care of the second Dark Mist, or just the third one we fought during the overall boss fight. And now, he's had enough. He's taken to the air. We do not get a cute little cutscene with sheep like we did when we fought the Queen. We're just gonna take off. Now we're dogfighting, and this is basically ripped directly out of Banjo-Kazooie, the fight against Grunty, similar to the Queen fight. He moves pretty fast, but notice that we are largely invulnerable during the dash, so basically we have to wait for him to fire the laser and make sure that we're dashing during it, because he does stop when he does that. He makes a little pathetic little roar noise whenever we bop him in the nose. We just gotta do that about 12 times, I guess, maybe 10. I forget the exact number. We have so many Essamons that we're not really worried about running out during our dash. See, there we go, he stops when he fires his laser, so to speak. I guess I realize I'm ignoring the main. If you get a good loop, you can actually just turn around over and over and over again, just keep bopping him in the nose. Sometimes we get it going. Every so often he remembers to switch directions. Note that we can clip right through him without taking any collision damage. This, by the way, is also why the Baku charge, the thing we got for 100 pieces of Dream Energy, is practically useless. Because the dash that Bumble has already kills most normal enemies with one shot, and we're pretty much invincible while it's actually going on. So I'm not really sure why I thought that was a good idea. My favorite reward out of all the 100% completion stuff is actually the color change, because it's the only one that's not redundant with some other item that we already have. I mean, having infinite Essamons is cool and all, but notice that, like, realistically, we have been in no danger of running out of Essamons during this entire fight, just from using the hammer. Good ol' hammer. Thankfully, we had a good reason to use it during the fight, too, so that was nice. Anyway, we're just going to round up these last few hits, and then we're going to show off his death animation, and that'll be it. Again, I'll be uploading the actual ending cutscene without commentary, just for your viewing pleasure, because frankly there's really nothing to do during it, other than maybe snark during the credits, which is really not appealing to me. Oh man, he spazzed out a little bit there, like he got caught in a dash animation. And that's the nightmare, that's the final boss. We are done with the game. There's no final form here. Frankly, that was actually pretty impressive as it was. I mean, that was about a 15-minute fight, all things considered, especially if you include the Queen, not that she put up much resistance. And off he goes. You'd think that McTuve would have been able to do this himself during his fight against the Nightmare. Like, the Holy Instruments pretty much do it by themselves, but I guess not. The important thing is, the Nightmare is dead, the day is saved. Thank you for joining me during this LP, I hope you enjoyed it, and please look forward to my next project, which should be starting quite shortly. Thanks for watching, and good night.